Welcome to the Unlist. Unpopular opinions. So, a lot of people in the online fragrance community don't tend to think of their opinions as being unpopular. I don't know if we're all just high on our own supply, a phrase I've been using more often these days. What's going on, whether it's solipsism or narcissism or some other delusion of grandeur. But a lot of people out there tend to think that their opinions are shared by the bulk of their companions or those they associate with, that their tastes and opinions are sort of at the forefront of the spheres in which they inhabit. Whether they have influence over those spheres or not really is debatable, but a lot of people seem to think that when they state something, that it's shared by everyone else, almost as if it were fact, as if it were unilateral. And clearly, that is not the case, which is why there are so many arguments, some of them getting quite bitter and contentious and hostile, but everyone seems to think their opinions are popular, and not all of them are. So, in the spirit of that concept, I'm making a video about opinions I have that I think are unpopular. Some of my most unpopular opinions. And after the video is done, or during it if you want, you can list some of the opinions you have that you think may be unpopular. Now, I will say, if you state opinions in the comment section that are not about me, that are about anything and everything else, I'm going to let you have them. In the spirit of sharing, I'm not going to debate your opinions or try to shoot them down, do anything mean-spirited like that. But if you have the gall to state an unpopular opinion and it's about me, then I may have to come in and do one of those if it's rude or nasty or anything of that sort, right? That only makes sense. You come into my house and you talk shit and you get hit, okay? It's just how it works, right? So that said, any other kind of unpopular opinion you may have, if it's stated respectfully and civilly, I'll just let it stay there in the comment section. I won't do anything about it. Now let's get started. What are my unpopular opinions? Well, I think my biggest unpopular opinion, the one that I find to be the most unpopular of all the various opinions I have, is actually one that almost ironically should be the most popular, right? You think this opinion would be held by more people, but it's not. And that opinion is, let people like things. I have this opinion that I think people should let other people enjoy things. If it doesn't affect them in any way, they have no reason to debate or contest someone else's like of something. Or you can flip the script and say dislike. Let people dislike stuff, right? Someone dislikes a perfume that you love, okay, so what? They're stating they dislike it. How's that hurting you? It's like I said several videos back, people who act like their perfumes are people and that they have feelings and they need to defend those hurt feelings, or that those perfumes have a concept of honor, and that whenever someone says they dislike that perfume or they talk smack about that perfume or the perfumer or whatever, the person pulls out the sword and the shield and goes in to defend the honor of their favorite fragrance. And I'm like, that's unhealthy. There's no real reason for that, okay? It's a bottle of smelly water. It doesn't have feelings, and it also doesn't have any concept of self-worth either, let me tell you. The perfumer also probably doesn't really care if he or she is being smack-talked either by some random person on the internet who they'll never meet or know in any real meaningful way. So, once more, I state that let people like things, okay? If someone expresses why they dislike something that you like, you can maybe explain why you like it as a counterpoint, but that's it. And same thing in reverse. If someone likes something and they express how much they like it, you can say you dislike it as a counterpoint, but other than that, there's no conversation to be had. It's case closed. They like the thing, you don't like the thing. Or they dislike the thing, but you like the thing. Different strokes for different folks. Variety is the spice of life. Whatever platitude you want to insert there that helps you grasp the concept. That's it. That is my most unpopular opinion right there. Let people like things. For some reason, I get so much flack. I get so much just vitriol from folks who don't like it when I say they can't bully people. They don't like being told you can't bully people for being different from you. It's just not cool. It's not something you do. It's not what people in a civil society do when they conduct themselves in public, right? One would think anyway. Now, the next unpopular opinion I hold is that there are no rules. There isn't a unilateral set of standards or tenets that guide you in your enjoyment of perfume, of luxury goods that have no real value aside from what we assign them, because they're not commodities, not food and water, not shelter, okay, not medical care. So there are no rules. And this applies to everything. This applies to gender. This applies to age. This applies to time of year. This applies to vintage or modern. This applies to synthetic or natural. This applies to corporate or individual artisanal handmade. This applies to concentration. This applies to everything. There are no rules. There are only, and there have only ever been, suggestions. Not rules, suggestions. The company or the perfumer suggests that this is for men. They state it on the bottle. They suggest that this is eau fresh because they call it eau fresh. So they're saying it's a fresh fragrance. You should wear it in a situation where you think you'd want a fresh fragrance. They suggest that it's intense. Likewise, reviewers suggest that they think it's best worn in summer, or that they think it's best worn at a funeral or a wedding, at the office, on a date. These are all suggestions. They're not rules, okay? Even the price is a suggestion. I mean, yeah, there are more laws to regulate that sort of thing. If someone signs a contract with an MSRP, with, a manufacturer's suggested retail price, see, there it is, MSRP, manufacturer's suggested retail price, a seller can still choose to sell it for less or more than that price. If there's contractual bylaws in there that penalizes them for doing so, they may end up getting embroiled in a lawsuit, right? If they sell a bottle of Raja Dove for $100 when it's supposed to go for 400, yeah, Raja Dove himself can't fly from the UK to that shop and then come in there and do that to the seller. He can't. He can't really force them to. All he can do is sue them or something for a breach of contract somewhere. But in the meantime, the bottles are still going out the door at $100, okay? There's no stopping that. It's not a criminal offense here, okay? So you can't really get any kind of real law enforcement involved there. So once more, it is a suggestion, okay? It's all suggestion. And that is exactly how you should really be with anything that's not an essential part of your life, right? There aren't rules, because nothing you do with a fragrance, nothing you really do with a fragrance is going to have any real permanent lasting impact on you, at least not in any, way that could affect your quality of life, You put it on and you think it smells bad, so you take it off. That's the end of it. You put it on and your coworker doesn't like it, or your friend doesn't like it, or you think it's too strong, or it's too cloying, or something else happens. It's an aesthetic thing that you can very easily ameliorate by washing it off. You put the fragrance on and you feel uncomfortable because it's a little too masculine or a little too feminine. You put the fragrance on and maybe it gives you a rash. All right, maybe you'll learn not to wear that one again next time. But you get my point though, right? So I would find in general that there are very few hard and fast rules involving fragrance other than don't drink it. Don't put it in your eyes. Things that could actually cause real harm, right? Stuff like that. Otherwise, there are no rules, guys. There are no rules. And that applies to the batch codes and stuff too. Oh, well, the batch from this year is better than the batch from that year, so if you wear that batch, then it's not really the real fragrance. You've got like a fake version, even though it's the actual fragrance from the manufacturer in the manufacturer's bottle. Oh, that's a pretender. It's not the real one. You have to buy this batch. No, that's not how that works. I mean, you can suggest that very clearly. You can suggest that the older bottle is better than the newer one, or that the millésime is better than the standard, or whatever. Okay. The parfum is better than the eau de toilette. However you want to slice it, you can suggest that, but it's not a rule. You can't make that a rule, you know? No one died and made you God of fragrance. So that's my second most unpopular opinion. So rolling back, the first one is let people enjoy things. That one always gets a rise out of everyone. I get taken to task all the time for that. And then the second one is there are no rules. Do what you want, okay? Now, my third most unpopular opinion is that people don't often smell with their nose. They don't. They smell with anything and everything but their nose. And I'm not going to try and be, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson or Luca Turin and really get scientific on you with this, but most people, when they smell a fragrance, they're not necessarily evaluating the specific odors of the fragrance on a level that's one-for-one sensory. They're using other things. They're using emotional response. They're using nostalgia, if it's an older fragrance that they remember from their youth. They're influenced by the popularity or the price of the fragrance, or they're influenced by peer pressure from others, the expectations that everyone else likes this fragrance, so they have to like it too, okay? Or they blind bought it, and now they're stuck with it, so they're forced to try and like sort of Mandela effect or Stockholm syndrome themselves into enjoying what they've paid for because they can't get their money back. There's like no way they can have remorse, so instead they have to kind of psych themselves up. Well, maybe I just don't understand this fragrance right now. I need to come back to it because that $400 is already gone. But the effect is the same. They're not really using their nose. They're not smelling the fragrance and going, oh, I like the sweetness of this, or I like the leather accord in this, or oh, I like the way this transitions from this note to this note, or oh, I like how this has a very spicy feel to it. They don't literally smell with their nose and then reach the conclusion that they enjoy the smell for what it is, for face value. They don't do that. They always factor in the price, the vintageness, the rarity of the ingredients, all this other stuff that determines whether they like the fragrance or not. The actual liquid in the bottle very seldomly determines whether the person actually likes that smell or not, you know? And I'm not saying it's wrong. That's the thing. I'm not saying it's wrong, okay? If you want to wear rose-tinted goggles when you smell your vintages, if you want to get psyched up by the marketing or psyched up by the influencers or all the stuff that the perfumer tells you about how many quadruple distilled oud tincture oil, whatever, from Cambodia it is, if you want to get worked up into that, and if that makes you enjoy the fragrance, then that's you. That's me going back to opinion number one, right? Remember I said let people enjoy things? That's me saying that you can enjoy your fragrance for whatever reason you see fit to enjoy it. I'm not telling you you can't. But I am going to maintain the opinion that you're not really smelling that fragrance with your nose. You're smelling it with your pocketbook. You're smelling it with something else, your eyes, whatever. Psychology is a thing. So a lot of people out there don't smell with their nose. There are people who do, okay? There are people who very clearly do, you know. Some of the best reviewers on the planet, you know, who write books and such and are notable figures, they can very well analyze a fragrance. And there are also some influencers as well that have YouTube channels. Whether they're popular or not, they do smell with their nose. They are capable of going, okay, this is what I feel, what I smell here, and it moves into this. And then they kind of form an opinion of the fragrance the same way you would a song you heard on the radio, right? Well, I like the way this guitar sounds. You know, I like the way the vocals come in. I like the way the drums are here. You know, but people don't do that with fragrance. They do it with other things. But with fragrance, it's always something else, you know? And maybe the scientific reason, if I'm going to give you that, the only little bit of science I'm going to give you that, is the nose, the receptors of the nose are very closely tied to memory. You've probably already read 1,000,000 times that memory is very closely linked to the olfactory sensors. So what we smell is very closely linked to what we remember. We recall things based on sense of smell. That's some survival mechanism that goes back, you know, time immemorial, but that probably plays a part why we tend not to smell like that one-to-one. We tend to go to some other place, but that's a thing, and I maintain that opinion, and it's not popular. People don't like being told, oh, you're trying to say that I don't like this fragrance because of the way it smells. I like it because of the memories it conjures and the way that makes me feel. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying you enjoy this because of the memories it conjures and the way those memories make you feel. That's why you like this, not because of the way it smells. It could smell like broccoli and cheese. If broccoli and cheese conjured those memories for you, then you would like the smell of it regardless. Doesn't matter whether it's rose or oak moss or civet or aquatic notes. That smell takes you to a place in your mind, and that's a happy place for you, and that's why you like that. That is a surprisingly unpopular opinion. It is surprisingly unpopular. People being told that. And then, of course, last but not least, probably the least unpopular of all the opinions I want to give you. Won't be much explanation here, of course. But opinion number 4, unpopular opinion number 4, is people tend to not wear the things they like the most, or they claim to like the most. This one takes a little bit of unwrapping to explain, but when people say, that's my favorite fragrance, right? Oh, that's my favorite fragrance. I love that so much. It's my absolute favorite. And they actually track their wares on Base Notes or Fragrantica or some other place, and you go and you look at their wares, they lie. They always lie. Oh, my absolute favorite fragrance in the whole wide world is Koros. You know, and then you go look, and it's like they've worn something else 3 times as much as they've worn Koros. So that is why I say the fragrances people claim to be their favorite and the ones that are actually their favorite based on how much they use them are oftentimes not the same. They're different. So I do track my wares very religiously using Base Notes software. I know how many times I've worn X, Y, and Z. So I don't tend to say I have favorite fragrances. I tend to say I have most worn fragrances. Fragrances that I can prove I reach for more than other reasons. Now, I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why someone would say Polo is their favorite fragrance, right? But then they would wear Paco Rabanne more. Or they would say Poison is their favorite fragrance, but then they would wear Chanel No. 19 more. I can't explain why that is. I just know that's the way it is. Okay, people will say, I love this to death. This is my favorite thing. And then they're wearing something else. 2 to 3 to 4 times as much. Gone through bottles of that thing. But never once will they say that's their favorite. That's not their favorite. That one that they wear like 3 times a week, not their favorite. And now I know some of you are going to go, oh, but dumb reach, right? Dumb reach. It's a dumb reach, so that's why they wear it all the time. Maybe it's not dumb, though. Topic for another video about dumb reaches. Are they truly dumb? Maybe they're not. We can talk about that next time. But for this time, I maintain that people's favorite fragrances usually aren't. At least not literally. Maybe in their minds they are. But in application, on paper, that's their favorite. But in practice, never usually the case. And that's it. 4 of my most unpopular opinions. Now, give me some of yours in the comment section below. Be nice and civil, especially if they're about me. Be nice and civil. And hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks. Bye-bye.